Welcome everyone. It's fantastic to have you joining us for this week one of our Happiness Habits course together. I'm Joshua and I'm going to be one of the co-leaders facilitating these sessions with you, and I'll hand over as well to your other co-leader, Alex.
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Alex. So excited to get to know you over the duration of this course. I think one thing I just wanted to mention is that, Joshua and I, although we're a bit more familiar with the course than some of you guys maybe, we're actually really excited to be here as participants, kind of engaging with this topic and going on this journey ourselves. So we're getting as much out of this process as you are, and we're really looking forward to kind of diving into it together. Shall I share the slides, Josh?
Would be wonderful. And yes, we're going to be having a look, and the focus for today is gratitude. But as you can see, it's all about the habits we're going to be exploring, the happiness habits. So we're going to be taking quite a broad look and thinking about the topic of happiness first, and then delving into this specific aspect of gratitude. I'll just pause for a moment as well, just in case anyone has any tech issues or anything, just to say that if you do, then let us know in the chat feed, because I know Alex will be keeping an eye on that, and can support you as best as he can. So here we are. Let's take a look at what's ahead of us in this 6 weeks journey that we're going to go on. So we have 6 different topics to explore. Week 1 is gratitude, as I said, also kind of exploring this idea of happiness more broadly, and then starting to think about the habits that we could build around this topic of gratitude. And as with all the weeks, we're going to be hearing from 2 experts on this in some videos. We're going to be having some group discussions about it, and we're also going to be having a chance for some really good personal reflection and thinking about the actions that we can take. In week 2, we're going to be touching upon, well, more than touching upon, we're going to be exploring the topic of self-care and really what this means and why it's so important to us. And then week 3, we'll be focusing on relationships. Week 4, this important idea of resilience and how we can build that. Week 5, kindness, and week 6, we'll be looking at the big important topic of meaning. And as we can see at the top of this slide here, it's all about happiness habits. So as well as all the different kind of ways we're going to be learning together, we're also going to be trying to focus in on taking something away each week that feels like an achievable habit we can start to embed around all of these different topics. So that's what we're going to be exploring. So hopefully you're all eager and ready for that. We certainly are. Now we're going to do a quick check-in to begin with, so we all get the chance to hear from each other. And as you can see, it's very simple. Hello, my name is, and then just one thing that comes to mind that brings you happiness. So one thing that brings me happiness is ... and you can complete that sentence however you like. Because there's quite a few of us, let's keep it relatively brief. So let's aim for 30 seconds maximum, and we will do it. I've got a list of everyone's names here so I can keep a track of this in case we forget who's been and who hasn't been, but we'll do it by trying to pass a virtual ball to each other so that we can pass on after we've been. And some of us might have a device where you can't see everyone on it, so just let me know if you don't know who to pass to and I can help with that. So I'll go first. Hello, I'm Joshua, and one thing that brings me happiness is dancing. And I'm going to pass over to Yvonne.
I'm smiling because, well, I'm Yvonne, and one thing that brings me happiness is dancing.
Nice. Who would you like to pass to?
Can I pass to Michelle?
Thank you, Yvonne. It's very nice that you pass to me. So my name is Michelle, because personally, what makes me happy is singing. So maybe we can have the chance that you dance and I sing. And I pass the ball to Lauren.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lauren. One thing that makes me very happy is my chickens. I'm going to pass now to David Smart.
Hi there, my name is David, and one thing makes me happy is cycling. I just love it and love the exhilaration and scenery.
Is there anyone else who hasn't been? I'm just checking my list. I think we've all been then. Fantastic, wonderful. I really loved to hear the things that make you feel happier. And what we'll do now is take the opportunity. We've had a bit of a check-in with everyone, just to take some time to pause and be a bit more mindful. Now, what this course contains is various different videos, and sometimes we'll be listening to them, sometimes we'll be watching, but there's the invitation with this one, as will be explained, to kind of take the opportunity to be more mindful with each other. So I'll hand over to Alex, because I know that you're going to set this up and share it, but let's take this time and settle in for a mindful moment together.
Hi, and welcome to this mindful moment practice, one mindful breath.
Fantastic to have that chance to all check in on a different level with that mindful minute. And we're going to get going with exploring this topic of happiness, of gratitude, and what's quite important for us to make sure that we all feel clear about the kind of space that we're all contributing to is just getting clear about some golden rules that we have in our sessions. So I'm sure we'll all be happy to stick with these, but just to be really clear, so the first one is that we are going to be listening to what everyone has to offer, because everyone here has something really valuable to offer. So we're going to make sure that we're giving each other our full attention without judgment. The next one is about speaking from the heart, not just the head, because when we share our lived experiences and our feelings, rather than just kind of the thoughts and the opinions, that means we're sharing something really meaningful to the people that we're having a conversation with. And the next one is about kindness. So we are kind to ourselves and each other. So what we're going to do is really take care of our own needs here, as well as the needs of others, and commit to creating a space that feels inclusive, it feels safe for us all, and that we're all able to support each other and be kind as well. So keeping those three things in mind, and we can always come back to them if we need to throughout the session. So that's our golden rules, and with that leads us into our first connection point in smaller groups, and we're going to do this one in pairs. So as you can see here, there's a question for us to be considering, and that will get popped into the chat feed as well, so that you can refer back to it when you're in breakout groups. And it's about exploring what brought you here. What motivated you to come here to join this Happiness Habits course and learn more about happiness? The way it will work is you'll be invited into the breakouts, and then you'll decide who goes first, and roughly there'll be about 7 minutes when you're in there, but that gives you enough time for a full 2 minutes for one person to speak uninterrupted, so that they really get the chance to share their thoughts around this topic of what brought them here, and also their feelings around it as well. And then swap to the other person so that they also get 2 minutes. So it's really important to kind of stick to that idea of it being an uninterrupted 2 minutes. So we're really listening to each other. Nodding and smiling, of course, is fine, but it gives each other the chance to really share. So Alex will be opening up the breakout rooms in a few moments, and you just enter that, and we'll send through reminders as well of timings so that you're clear about when to switch over, etc. So enjoy those conversations and see you soon. Great. So that was, well, we all have had our own experiences with that, but I can say that just to be able to start to make those connections, that was a small one, a pair, but there will be other discussions that we'll be having, sometimes as a whole group, sometimes in breakouts with 3 or 4 other people. And of course, over the 6 weeks, we'll have lots of chance to connect with each other. But it was great to start that way. So what we're going to do now is turn our attention towards starting to think about this idea of actions for happiness and why that's so important. And then we'll increasingly start to focus in on the topic of gratitude. So let's take a look at a key idea. This idea is that small actions can make a really big difference. And that sounds very simple, but it's a really important thing for us to remember. And research shows that there are simple actions that we can take that can significantly boost how happy that we feel. And we'll all have our own experiences. And I'll just say from my personal experience, I know now that if I don't make little breaks throughout my day to go and connect with nature, go for a walk or something like that, that really is something that I've noticed has a big difference to my own mental health and well-being. We're not experts in this, but what we are going to be doing is looking at different videos throughout this course to help us get some expert perspective on this from various different psychologists and other experts. And we'll be looking at a video in a moment from Vanessa and Mark. But before we move to that video, Alex, is there anything else you'd like to add in about this point of actions making a difference?
Not that Vanessa and Mark won't say better, so I'll wait till after.
Fantastic. So yeah, let's move to this video, making any notes that we need on paper as we're watching it, and then that will spark off some discussions.
We all want to be happy and to live a good life, but how often do we stop and ask ourselves what that really means?
Wonderful. So this gives us the chance now to absorb that and then see what comes out of it in terms of our own reflections. And it would be fantastic to have a bit of a discussion as a whole group around this. So to begin with, as it says on this slide, the focus is like what resonated with you from this video. So no rush with this. It's not like you have to immediately kind of put your hand up or anything. Just take the time for some personal reflections. What was it from all the things that Mark and Vanessa were saying that stood out? And when you are ready, if anyone would like to, you're invited. Perhaps you can raise your virtual hand icon, and we'll turn this slide off in a moment so we can see each other better. And you're kind of welcome to share, and we'll hear from a few of us and just see the kind of things that might have resonated. So it may be, for example, that one of the 10 keys to happier living that was talked about really feels particularly meaningful for you at the moment, or that idea of even very small things, but done regularly, can make a real difference. So whenever anyone's ready, and wonderful, we can see some hands coming up already. So we'll go to Anne-Marie first, and then we might not get a chance to hear from everyone, but we'll definitely hear from a few. And I will hand over to you, Anne-Marie.
Yeah, I think the thing that's always resonated with me with everything that you do is this idea that there are actions we can take. So that puts us in the driving seat, and it gives us hope that we've got a say in this. And it's that's what I've always liked about it. I know you called Action for Happiness, and it is the actions, and it's saying, we have choices. We can do those actions or not. And when we do them, they make a real difference. So I'm always taken by the word action there.
Wonderful. I love that idea of the autonomy, the empowerment that comes with that. And it may be that as we go around different points, that it's quite a similar point that we're making, and that's absolutely fine. So let's go to Melissa next, whether it's a similar point or whether it's a different perspective. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no, similar, I guess, in a way. It's like the actions, but one key thing for me is really that it's sort of an ongoing process. It's not one quick fix. It's going to suddenly like wave the magic wand and you're going to suddenly be happy forevermore. So I think, again, what Anne-Marie said, it was like you're in the driving seat, and it's creating those habits. It's and practicing them every day so they become natural and you incorporate that into your life.
And wonderful to see ideas coming through in the chat feed as well. And even though there'll be certain bits in the session that are more chat feed focused and certain bits that are more whole group discussion focused, do feel free to, at any point throughout any of these sessions, share your thoughts and ideas and wisdom into the chat feed as well. So it's lovely to see this idea about learning to respond rather than react. And this thought about brushing your teeth, Now hold that thought, because you might find that later we come back to that very topic. So I'm glad that you brought that up. And yeah, so the difference between positive thinking but noticing the good things more. So seeing life as it is, but focusing on the good bits as much as we can in a realistic way. That's something that we often talk about. And yes, so the negative wiring that we can experience, and BJ Fogg has a model of this, and his talk was brilliant. So again, watch this space. You might see that name mentioned later later today. Fantastic. So I'm not going to read through everything that's come through on here, but really lovely to see all of these and hear all of these ideas coming through. So with that in mind, next thing we're going to do is focus in on definitely using the chat feed. We're all going to do an exercise, and we're going to think about some of the actions that we take. So noting down your own actions, what are some of the things that you're already doing that contribute to your happiness? So whatever comes to mind, and they could of course be small actions, they don't need to be anything big or major, but you feel that it contributes to your levels of happiness. So put this into the chat feed. An example for me is definitely around novelty. I really realized that doing new things, whether it's listening to new songs or going to a new cafe or learning a new topic in the field of psychology or philosophy or whatever it is, like that kind of is definitely actions that really give me a personal well-being boost. And of course, there's many others besides, but let's see what's the kind of things that are coming through in the chat feed, and we'll get a chance to talk, maybe hear from about a couple of these before we go into a quick break. So we have, zoomed right up there and was looking at the board game things. So we have walks in nature, being there for friends in need, walking with dogs. So again, that's the idea of connecting with nature. Dogs themselves are part of nature. Nature's a real theme coming through. Mini adventures, spending time in nature, meditation, getting out of the house, or just changing rooms if indoors for too long. Yeah, it's such a small action, but again, it's that trying new things out. Running, making time to see my friends. I won't be able to read through all of these, but I don't need to, because you can read through them yourselves. If you can, take a look at the chat feed and get a sense of all the different actions, ideas that are coming through in here. I'd love to, seeing as we have a little bit of time and we have the opportunity to, I'd love to perhaps hear a little bit more about a couple of these. So where was it? Beck, you mentioned about having a mini adventure. I love that phrase. If you don't mind, and you can pass if you'd rather not, but would you be happy to elaborate a little bit on that? What is a mini adventure for you?
That's a good question. So something quite significant happened in my life a couple of years ago, and I felt the need for an adventure. I didn't know what the adventure was, but I needed an adventure. But it became a little bit of a thing where I was like, what is that adventure? And somebody just said to me, how about just having adventures as they come up? So maybe doing things you've never done before, stepping outside of my comfort zone. So I mentioned at the start, I went paddleboarding the other day, which was something I've always wanted to do. And I just thought, what's stopping me? So I went, got on the paddleboard, fell promptly into the water and had a hell of a time. I also went on the back of my friend's motorbike for the first time. I've never done that before. I'm 55. So just doing things that just probably challenged me a little bit, and it's a great confidence builder to try things and feel like you achieved something and had fun at the same time.
Love it. The idea of like an adventure doesn't need to be climbing a mountain or going to the jungle or anything like that. It can be a very different type of thing we might not normally call an adventure, but it creates that sense of challenge, of fun, exploring new things. Excellent. And I haven't managed to look through all of these. I know that there's some great things coming through, but I was quite drawn, Rahila, to what you were saying as well about that importance of making time for yourself each day, even something simple like just having a cup of tea in silence. So again, I invite you, and you don't have to, but would you like to share a little bit more about how you came to that realization that was helpful?
Sure. Yeah, I think for me, I just realized that, you know, sometimes you just get caught up in work and the stress where you just kind of get up and you're on somebody else's schedule and you're not doing things for yourself. So I think for me, what's really important is making sure that every day I start my day on my terms. So I'm doing something that makes me happy, whether that's, you know, it might not be consistent every day, but it will be something small, whether that's, you know, reading a book first thing in the morning or just having a bit of time to myself before I give my energy to the world and to anyone else around me. So that's just something I've been a bit more intentional about. And sometimes I might switch it up a little bit and try a few different things. Like at the moment, I've started learning Qigong, which I'm loving. And I'm on day 4 now of that and absolutely loving it. So that's my current routine at the moment. So I have my cup of tea and then I make sure that during the day, if it's not first thing, I do make that time to practice something for myself.
Wonderful. Again, it's that kind of shift, isn't it, between kind of realizing we have a choice and we can actually choose to embed some of these things into our lives. I had a big 2 thumbs up there. You might have seen it. Qigong, I absolutely love. So delighted to hear about that. So wonderful. What we're going to do now is move towards a break. So this gives us a chance to have to do whatever we need, grab another water, go to the toilet, whatever we need for a comfort break. And then we're going to get going again. And UK time, it will be 7:05 that we get going. So try and have a 4-minute break if you can, so that it gives us a chance to all be ready, raring to go by the time we get to that point. I'll be around here in case anyone's got any questions. But Alex, anything to add in before we move to the break? Excellent. Well, enjoy your break and I'll see you in 5 minutes. Okay, so according to my timings, it is good time for us to get going again. So hopefully we're all back or almost back from our breaks and we will continue with the rest of this week's workshop or session. Lovely to see so many of you back now. So what we're going to do now is, if you remember, we talked about how happiness is a broad topic. It's an important one for us to think about in week 1. But now increasingly, we're going to think about gratitude and what it can mean to start to embed habits of gratitude into our lives and why that might be important. So we will take a look at this slide. As a key point for us to remember, gratitude makes us happier, and there's this idea of looking for what's good being perhaps a little bit of an effort sometimes, because our minds are like Velcro, very sticky for the negative, and Teflon for the positive, so it kind of just slides off. Practicing gratitude makes us happier, so it's that regular practice of it. And I personally have a slightly different way of doing a gratitude journal. Some of us might have heard of that way of writing down the things. A lot of us will be very aware of that, writing down the things that we feel grateful for day to day. And I've got a slightly different way of doing it, but many of us might have our own practices. But we're really going to explore it. And again, we're not experts in this, so it'd be perfect timing to hear from Mark and Sean Acor, because Sean Acor is a real expert in behaviour change, to learn more about gratitude and the habits that can connect to gratitude. So again, take any notes that you need and we'll watch the video and it will take us a few minutes, then we'll come back together and see what conversations it sparks.
Life is full of ups and downs, and there are lots of reasons why we might feel that our happiness is outside of our control. But the good news is that small actions over time can add up to something really significant. Wonderful.
So that's great to hear from Mark and Sean Acorr there. And if you're keen to learn more from Sean Acorr, that is an excerpt from a talk, and you can find on the Action for Happiness website all the different talks in a library there. So there, Joanne, was the reference to the toothbrushing that you anticipated. Great, and there's so much more going on there. So again, even though we might not necessarily get a chance to hear from everyone, it would be excellent if we could use that to kind of build some personal reflections for ourselves, and then also some group reflections. It may be that certain aspects of that really resonated with you. And for me, I also loved what Mark was saying at the end about his levels of skepticism around it, and then his surprise at actually the impact it had. But for you, there might be other aspects of what Mark and, of course, Sean was saying that just feels like, wow, that's something that had an impact on me. I want to explore more. So if anyone would like to share, I can see a hand going up already, or hands going up, then now's a good time to do it. And maybe we'll get a chance to hear from 2 or 3 people just about any of your key reflections. And again, as happened before, feel free to share things in the chat feed as well, if you'd like to. So let's start with Beck, over to you.
Thank you. I've got out of the habit of doing the gratitude thing, but probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I decided to do an exercise where I basically put a photograph in a private Facebook album of something I was grateful for every day for a year. And it really got me to think about stuff in my life that I was grateful for. But it also, on the days that things were really bad, it made me sort of scour my life for something positive, which, you know, raised my mood, I guess. But the lovely thing about it now, and I think the guy in the video reflected on it, is that it comes up every day in my Facebook memories of something I was grateful for 6 years ago. And it's lovely to look back on that and think, oh yeah, you know, I probably wouldn't have remembered that unless I'd sort of made a record of it. So it was a lovely thing to do at the time, and it's also a lovely thing to look back on now.
Lovely to see kind of a positive power of social media there, because often we can focus on what's not so positive. That's great to see. Thank you, Beck. And over to you, David.
Thanks. Yes, and I think the gratitude diary, this was something that really just got me, because I've not had at times in my life the best of moods and stuff, but gratitude just made such a difference. And so my daughter for Christmas gave me a gratitude diary, which is a 6-minute gratitude diary, morning and evening. And it was anchoring it to something else that I used to do. I used to just read some notes in the morning and evening. It just anchored it for me. And that really just, I found helpful. And then, and just we've shared it, you know, together. And that's also just been a lovely thing to have done. So gratitude has made a huge difference. And just a gratitude diary is just, you know, we talked about it, but which I still do.
Thank you for everyone sharing there, just to acknowledge the various different fascinating aspects of the same video that we watched, and how it means different things to all of us. Even though there's clearly themes there, there's a lot that we can take away and really explore for ourselves in terms of what really works for us and what's important for us around this topic of gratitude and habits. And so I love that. Thank you. And as always, at different points, if there's things that you want to kind of share in the chat feed as well, you're very welcome to. But what we'll do now is we'll move towards an exercise that we can all do together to start to practice with this idea of gratitude. So it's a bit like all together writing a gratitude journal in the chat feed. So we're going to, no rush for it. We can take a minute to think about it. And we're all going to aim to think of 3 things from the last 24 hours that we feel grateful for, and write them down. And if you prefer, you can just write this down for yourself. But if you'd like to, you can put these in the chat feed. It can be big things, or it could be small things. It could be things related to work. It could be things related to outside of work, something you heard about the world outside in the news. I can share examples for me. I'm really grateful that my dad and stepmom are going to be coming to visit for the weekend. I have not seen them for quite a long time, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm grateful for work. I'm very passionate about the work that I do. That's a second thing for me. And then I'm going to choose a massively broad one. Another thing I'm grateful for is music. I just love the power of music, all the types of music to influence my mood and my thinking. And so that's my examples, but eager to hear everyone's examples. So any thoughts, put them into the chat feed about the things that you're feeling grateful for right now, whether it's 1, 2, or hopefully 3, if you can manage 3. It would be great to see these coming through. And I'll have a look as they're coming through as well. So to start us off with, Rachel, that's so fantastic to see that very important one, that your husband is okay. So thank you for starting us off with that very meaningful example. And then we have getting out for a morning walk. Very different type of example, but just as powerful to be connected with nature, or powerful in a different way. Having the opportunity to be here, wonderful. Getting all the washing up done. My wife and her laughter and care and fun together, great. Reflecting on compassionate reading with a colleague. Someone told me something I hoped to have come to fruition today. I love that word, fruition, very randomly in a business meeting, excellent. Invited to a new networking group, very supported boyfriend, sunshine, fantastic. I won't read through all of these, but it's I'm sure we can all feel what it's like to be reading through these different ones. And let's just choose. Comforting hug from friend, enjoying the film Elvis yesterday. The bananas perfectly ripe. Terry, I'd love to hear, you talked about a new walk with your dogs. If you're happy to, and you don't, you can pass if you'd rather, but we'd just love to hear a little bit more about your story there. You said that you might not have been brave enough to just explore it, but you actually recently have got a new one with your dogs. So would you like to let us know a bit more about that?
Yeah, it was actually today, and I guess I retired almost 5 years ago now, and dogs are about 10. If I was walking the dogs, I had to know where I was going. If there wasn't a map or a route or a signage, that was it. And it's basically been a learning over the last 5 years, and I'd seen a car parked on another walk I go to, a lovely place called Binningwood. And today I just thought, right, I'm going to park the car and we're going to see where this goes. And it was just wonderful. And I get a real buzz these days. But one is the finding something new, but to be honest, 2 is the satisfaction of, back to that video of change is possible, that I've managed to change my behavior. Because, my mental thing says the worst that happens is we stop and we turn around and we go back. But I wouldn't have done that a few years ago. So that's a joy.
Big 2 thumbs up, well done. That's fantastic example to share. Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you both, and thank you everyone for sharing the things that you're grateful for. So what we're going to do now is take the opportunity to spend more time in smaller group discussions, so that we get a chance to connect with others and dive deeper into this topic. So let's have a quick reminder before we do of the ground rules. We're sticking with these really well already, but just making sure that we keep them fully in mind when we're in those breakouts as well. So listening to what everyone has to offer, we've all got something valuable to offer, we give each other our full attention, speaking from the heart, as not just from the head if we can, so our lived experiences and our feelings, and that we're kind to ourselves and each other as much as possible. So what does this mean in our breakouts? That we'll be making sure that everyone has a chance to speak, because it's about 15 minutes, but just making sure that we all hear each other, and that we try and do our best to kind of share things that are really experiences that we've had, rather than just our intellectual thoughts and opinions about the idea, and then that we respond positively and in a friendly way to each other in what we share. And we're kind to ourselves as well. We share only what we feel comfortable to share. And what will we be exploring? Well, it's definitely going to be diving deeper into this topic of gratitude. And so if we take a look at the next slide, we're going to be discussing this ideas that we can start to build habits. So it's moving towards this idea of building habits. So the question is, and we'll put this in the chat feed so you can reflect back on it, what are some of the ways that we can support ourselves to be more grateful this week? So we'll all have various ideas, and we'll share some kind of tips towards the end as well if people are struggling with it. But I think in those groups you'll be able to support each other with this. So it's a chance to really think about some of the takeaway actions that we can have, explore it together. Maybe there'll be actions that we all decide we want to try out and try the same one. Or maybe we will have very, very different ones. But it's very, very kind of free within that framework of making sure it feels like something that we can tangibly do this week. Starting, of course, to thinking about what that could be as a habit that we take away. So we'll open up the breakout rooms in a few moments. As we're setting that up, you can be starting to reflect upon some of the things that you might share and the ideas that you might explore. And then you will have roughly 15 minutes in those groups, and we'll be sending through the little reminders of timings as well. And then we'll all be coming back together just at about just after 7:45 8 UK time. So the groups will open up in a moment. So enjoy those discussions and look forward to speaking to you soon. So, hello, welcome back. Great, so had the opportunity, as we will do in each week, to have some conversations in smaller groups. Lovely, Joanne, I'm glad to hear that that was lovely, and we would have had like various different nuances of things that we've explored, and I'd love to, I'm sure we'd all love to kind of know all the things we've explored, but we have 12 minutes left of the session today. So we're going to keep moving on, and we're going to cover a couple of important things before we wrap up for today. First is we're going to be thinking about what's something that we're going to take away potentially as an action, and then we're going to get the chance to all do a checkout before we leave. So key thing about Action for Happiness is that it is action for happiness. If we want to feel better, then we need to take actions and do things differently. So BJ Fogg he's been mentioned before, and there's another fantastic talk with BJ Fogg on the Action for Happiness website. So a behavioral expert about these kind of ideas of tiny habits. So he says, take a behavior you want and make it tiny. Find out where it fits naturally in your life, and then nurture its growth. So that's the kind of wisdom that we're going to start to think about now in terms of something that we're going to take away. And something BJ Fogg talks about is the best way to build a new habit is to tie it towards something that we already do. The vast majority of us will brush our teeth at night and in the morning. So could there be that after we brush our teeth at night, that's the time that we think of one thing that we feel grateful for in my day. So a simple, achievable, tiny habit, because it doesn't need to be difficult necessarily to build new habits. This is the key thing. We can make it small, make it light, and make it something that's enjoyable for us as well. So on this next slide, this will give us an idea of the kind of thing we could use if we want to help us build a habit related to gratitude. But we don't need to use this at all. We can come up with our own one if we prefer. But this is something that we're going to all share in the chat feed. And like I said, you can come up with your own gratitude idea or habit. You will have already been exploring that in your groups, or you can use this structure. So you could say every day after I will do something. The example here is every day after I get into bed, I will think of 3 things I'm grateful for and write them down. So let's have a go at this, see what comes to mind, write it in the chat feed. You'll have more time after the end of the session to hone this and make it perfectly feel aligned with what you definitely know will work for you, and then you can explore it over the next week and see how it works. Again, you don't need to stick to this sentence structure if you don't want to, but you can come up with your own idea about a habit that you're going to try and embed around gratitude over the next week. So as soon as you're ready with that, you can put that in the chat feed, and oh, we've got some coming through already, and I will join in as well. What's the thing I'm going to do? I do Qigong actually in the morning, but I don't have a gratitude practice in the morning. But so after I finish my Qigong, I will say out loud one thing that I'm feeling grateful for. So that's my one. Great, and then I will open up the chat feed and we can all be looking at these as they come through. We might be inspired by the other ones as they come through. Love this. So turning on a tap, grateful to have water. Share something I'm grateful for with a friend that I want to stay connected to every day before I start work. Lovely. Every day before I brush my teeth, or after I brush my teeth, I will look into the mirror and speak kindly to myself. Every day before I go up to bed, I'm going to write down in my dormant gratitude journal 3 things that I'm grateful for, and on New Year's Eve I will read it, and that will make the gratitude journal not dormant anymore. Wonderful. And every day while I water my garden, I will think about the good things of the day. Fantastic. So as well as getting these in the chat feed so that we can inspire each other with them, you might want to also think about where else you might want to record this to help you remember to do it, whether it's a reminder on your phone, in a calendar, or like a post-it note that you might stick somewhere. And I just going to choose one quick one that's popped up that stood out for me, even though there's lots of lovely ideas here. Just be curious to find out a bit more about, and then we'll move on to doing our checkouts. But Rachel, if you don't mind, I love this idea of noticing some beauty as something to link to a gratitude practice. So would you like to tell us a little bit more about that, if you're happy to? Like what kind of things do you expect might come up in that walk?
So whenever I walk in the countryside, or in fact, when I'm out in the countryside, I try and notice the tiny things. So it might be seed heads, it might be the changes that happen in nature, even if I'm doing the same route. Today, when I was walking, and I hadn't walked for a couple of days, they'd cut the field down that was there just a few days before the crop had been cut. And the colour of it was really beautiful and golden. And the crunch underfoot, and I try and make it really sensory, and I try and kind of set myself up for the day when I do that, and it really helps me to stay focused, to be mindful, and to think about those things in the moment. It takes my mind off everything else. So green space is really, really important to me, and the countryside, I think, and nature is just so healing. But that's what I do.
Love it. I love the sensory way that you described that, and you're inspiring other people, I can see in the chat feed as well. So all that leaves us to do, if we've got our habits or action ideas in mind that we're going to experiment with, is now to do a bit of a quick checkout. We've had 2 hours almost connecting with each other. So what we're going to do is the same. I've got the list here, so don't worry if you can't remember who's been and who hasn't been. But all we're going to do is share one word or a quick phrase about how we're feeling, and that's the way that we're going to do our checkouts. So I'm feeling, and then pass it on to the next person, and I'll go first. So I am feeling inspired. And I will pass on to Deepak.
Not to steal your thunder, Joshua, but I'm also feeling very inspired, and also, yeah, just content. I'll go with that. Gina.
I am feeling excited for the next 5 weeks. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. And Yoko.
Sarah, Anyone else? Has anyone else give a wave if you haven't been?
Mummy.
Melissa?
Okay.
I'm feeling very excited, really looking forward to the coming weeks.
And Avon?
I'm feeling motivated.
Excellent. Good. And brilliant idea about having the hands up. So we are at time. We've got one last slide just to show up. And the key theme of that is just about all good luck to you in exploring these happiness habits and gratitude habits specifically over this next week. And we're really looking forward to seeing you next week. And then if there's anything that you want to ask questions about, then Alex and I will be staying around for a few more minutes or even longer if needed. But it's really lovely to have all your input, and it's been great to connect with you today. So thank you everyone so much. Feel free to put any last reflections and goodbyes into the chat feed, and we can also unmute ourselves and say goodbye to the rest of the group if we like as well.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye
so
and
much.
bye.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Joshua and Alex.
All the best.
Bye.